What if the Younglings stopped Anakin from executing Order 66? That's our story for today, and I hope you guys enjoy. Let's get right into it. Our story begins as Anakin Skywalker is making his way towards the Jedi Temple. Just an hour ago, things were so much different. The temple was a home of peaceful meditation and calm serenity. But now, as Anakin marched with the clones, the temple was about to become a graveyard. As Anakin marched, he had one thing on his mind: Padme. Anakin knew that in order to achieve the power to save her, then he must fully immerse himself in the dark side, and that would require the destruction of the temple and everyone inside. There was conflict in Anakin, but he pushed it away and reminded himself of the corruption and the betrayal of the Jedi Council. The Jedi must pay, Anakin told himself, and soon he reached the top stairs. Clone troopers began spreading out all around him, and the sounds of blasters and explosions were filling everyone's ears. Anakin watched as the clones moved with brutal efficiency. The only thing on their minds was following orders, and Anakin ignited his own blade. He ran in, soon finding Sindralic and a couple other Jedi making up the head of the Jedi Resistance, and Anakin leapt at them, clashing his blade against theirs, and the look on Sindralic's face was one of pure fear and betrayal. He looked at Anakin like he was some sort of monster, and this affected Anakin more than it should have. Sindralic was the battle master in the temple, perhaps the most powerful Jedi currently fighting off the clones, and he was just now finding out that his greatest enemy in here was none other than Anakin Skywalker. In all honesty, Sindralic respected and liked Anakin, and if there was one Jedi he could choose to help defend the temple with him, Anakin would have been high up on the list. And Anakin could see all of this in his eyes. So Anakin swung around, disarming the two Padawans, then he kicked Sin hard into a wall. Anakin force pushed the two Padawans into him, then ripped the wall apart with the Force to trap them, but not kill them. The dark side was whispering to Anakin to go finish the job, but he couldn't do it. Another squad of clones ran past Anakin, firing on Jedi trying to flee, and Anakin found himself at the door to the lift that would take him up to the council chambers. He couldn't bring himself to kill any of these Jedi, but Anakin knew he had to do it, or else risk everything. He needed to become strong enough in the dark side to save Padme, and Anakin knew temple security protocol. If there's an emergency like this, the Younglings were supposed to hide in the council chambers. So Anakin got into the lift, closing the door in front of him as more clones shot down more Jedi, and he closed his eyes, preparing for this moment. As the elevator rose up the council spire, voices rang out in Anakin's mind. Qui-Gon telling him to trust his instincts, Obi-Wan telling him he is wise and strong, Ahsoka telling him that only his teachings would have kept her alive, Rex telling him that it is an honor to serve under him, and Padme telling Anakin that he is the only Jedi, the only man that she could ever love because of his heart, which is full of good despite everything. And then the doors swung open, and the whispers of the dark side tugged at Anakin once more, telling him that only through the dark side can Padme survive. The quiet calmness of these chambers was so different from the rest of the temple, and Anakin watched as the Younglings stepped out from hiding behind the council seats. Anakin hated this room. This is where he was denied mastery, where the decision to expel Ahsoka was made. This was where the Jedi first looked at him and decided he was not worthy of being a Jedi. And Anakin's mind flashed back to that moment when he was only a child. He didn't understand the galaxy, the Force, Jedi, Sith. He knew of none of it, and yet the council looked at him and basically decided he was not worthy of being a Jedi. If it weren't for Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan, Anakin wondered if he would have suffered the same fate as his mother. But as the Younglings stared at him with hope and awe in their eyes, Anakin saw that he was making that same choice for them. In this moment, Anakin was deciding that his life, his happiness, were more important than the children who didn't understand what was going on. They had no role in this war. They didn't understand the Council's decisions. They were just innocent beings who wanted to be just like their hero, Anakin Skywalker. And Anakin realized his hand was shaking while holding on to his lightsaber. The Younglings collectively looked from Anakin's eyes to his sabered hand, and their eyes switched from hope to fear. But Anakin made a choice. He knew deep down that Padme would never love him if he did this, and he wondered if that was why Palpatine sent him here after all. The clones could have done this without him pretty easily. In fact, they were doing it right now. The only reason Anakin was sent here to cement himself in the darkness and further separate himself from Padme. Anakin remembered the moment he swore himself to the Sith. His mind was in a fog, and he was barely able to process everything Palpatine said. But now, it was becoming clear. Palpatine said that the power to cheat death had only been achieved by one Sith, Darth Plagueis, and Palpatine revealed that he killed that Sith in his sleep. Anakin felt angry once more, but not at the Jedi, instead at Palpatine. He lied. He didn't have this power. He was doing everything for himself. And Anakin made a choice to stop this madness. He told the younglings everything will be alright. He was going to get them out of here. But first he ran to the center of the council, activating the council beacon, hoping to contact any surviving council masters. The beacon was sent out, and Anakin waited with the younglings behind him. One of them, a child that looked just like Anakin when he got to the temple, grabbed Anakin's robotic hand and thanked him for coming to save them. Anakin did his best to offer a smile, knowing that things could have gone so much worse in this room. And eventually, 4 Jedi Masters received the beacon: Masters Coleman Kaj, Oppo Rencesis, Obi-Wan Kenobi, and Grand Master Yoda. They answered Anakin's call, and Anakin told them that the Jedi Temple is under siege, and Palpatine is Darth Sidious. If all 4 of them return to Coruscant, then perhaps they can hope to save the Order and the Republic. All 4 Jedi knew there was no time to talk, and they thanked Anakin for defending the temple. Yoda had many questions, but he knew there was no time. He told Anakin to get the younglings to safety, and soon the Jedi will return to aid him in defeating the Sith. And so the meeting ended, and Anakin guided the younglings into the temple. It was a tight squeeze, but they were all in the elevator as it began to descend. The sound of blaster fire and explosions got louder until the doors swung open, and a squad of clones turned to see Skywalker with the younglings. The clones told Anakin to destroy them, but Anakin used a force push to send them off of the balcony, and together, Anakin ran across the top bridge with the younglings, trying to get to the hangar. But on the other side of the bridge, a temple guard was leading another squad of clones. It was the Grand Inquisitor. He turned on his brothers and sisters in the group of temple guards, killing most of them with a surprise attack, and the clones were reporting the betrayal from Anakin. So the Grand Inquisitor ignited his yellow blade, and Anakin told the younglings to ignite their own blades and remember their little training. Anakin began running, swinging hard at the Inquisitor's double-bladed saber. Their sabers clashed with violent intensity, flashes of blue and yellow lights illuminating the younglings' fearful faces, as blasters whizzed into their small sabers. Anakin's strikes were precise and unrelenting. His determination to keep these children was safe was overwhelming the Inquisitor in seconds, and with a quick, devastating blow, Anakin sliced through his chest and pushed him into the squad of clones, as the lifeless body of the Inquisitor collapsed. The remaining clones reacted, raising their blasters to fire on Anakin and the younglings, but Anakin was faster. With a swift leap, he landed in the middle of the troopers, his saber spinning around in fast arcs, blaster bolts ricocheting off of his blade as he sliced through the squad. And in mere moments, the clones lied motionless around him. His chest was heaving with adrenaline, but he looked to the younglings to see that 2 of them fell to the clones. Anakin began guiding the younglings away once more, devastated by this loss, knowing deep down this was all his fault. Anakin soon got to the hangar, and at the entrance, Master Shaak Ti was standing as 3 LAAT gunships were firing at her. Master T got the rest of the younglings through the temple and into this hangar, but clone resistance was stopping her from leaving. Anakin got to her side, and together they started deflecting blasts from the gunships. One of them fired a missile, and together Shaak Ti and Anakin were able to catch it, guiding it back towards the middle gunship. The explosion caused the other 2 gunships on the sides of the exploding one to spin out towards the ground, allowing Anakin and Shaak Ti to load all of the younglings into a temple transport, and Shaak Ti told Anakin to get them out of here, while she tries to save more Jedi. Anakin told her she will likely die if she goes back in, and Shaak Ti said that is a risk she must take, and she sent Anakin away, flying with around 50 younglings away from the temple, avoiding the detection of the clones, and he flew into the Coruscant underworld. Anakin flew the transport to the hidden warehouse where Fives was hiding out so long ago. Anakin landed, and the younglings spread out into various hiding places. They would stay here for a while until a few more Jedi ships from the temple made their way here. Anakin activated a Jedi beacon, alerting others to his location, and when a group of Jedi Knights arrived, Anakin told them he was going back, and he left the warehouse, flying through Coruscant to see the temple on fire. He knew the temple was lost, and instead, Anakin turned his ship towards Padme's apartment. At the end of the day, all of this was for her and their child. But when Anakin arrived, he fell to his knees on the balcony, The entire apartment was torn apart, the couch was flipped over, lights were broken, walls were ripped apart and filled with blaster marks. Clearly, the clone troopers came here to take Padme, and her handmaidens tried to keep Padme safe. Anakin saw 4 of the handmaidens on the floor, blaster marks covering their robes, and Padme was nowhere to be found. But a moment later, Anakin heard small beeps and chirps from behind a curtain, and R2-D2 rolled out shyly. Anakin ran over to R2 and asked if he was alright, before asking what happened here. And R2, Palpatine, and a squad of commando clones came and took Padme. Anakin was heartbroken. He vowed to get her back. And before long, his comlink began to beep. Obi-Wan, Yoda, Oppo, and Coleman were back, and Anakin informed them of where he was. The 4 Jedi found Anakin at the apartment, and Anakin told them that Palpatine took Padme. Obi-Wan assured his former student that they would get her back, and they put together a plan. Anakin, Yoda, and Obi-Wan would go to the Senate, where Palpatine was soon scheduled to address the Republic. If the Jedi can defeat him before that, then perhaps they can protect the galaxy from more tyranny under his rule, and Anakin hoped that Padme would be with him. And meanwhile, Coleman Kaj and Oppo Rancisis will go to the warehouse, where the Jedi survivors are waiting, and they will guide these Jedi to a safe haven on Ahch-To. The Jedi all wished for the Force to be with each other, and they took off to their separate destinations. In one speeder, Anakin, Obi-Wan, and Yoda flew together, and Yoda could sense something in Anakin. A fading darkness was still lingering inside of him, and Yoda felt like there was much more to this story than Anakin just protecting the temple. But he knew that was for another time. For now, they had to destroy the Sith once and for all. Their speeder landed at an emergency exit to the Senate building, and the Jedi snuck through the entrance before making their way down to the Senate preparation room, where Palpatine was getting ready for his speech to the Senate. When the 3 of them arrived, Palpatine stood to meet them, smiling at Anakin, telling them that his wife is in grave danger. Anakin yelled out, asking where she is, and Palpatine said that she is in an underground lair underneath the 500 Republica building, and if he wants to save her, he'd better go now. Obi-Wan nodded to Anakin, telling him that he and Yoda will defeat the Sith, and Anakin ran away to save his wife. Once Palpatine heard of Anakin's betrayal, he knew that taking on all 3 Jedi would not be easy, so he made plans to get rid of Anakin for now. He pulled out a red blade, telling Yoda and Kenobi that they will die here, and he will reign as Emperor forever. The hum of their lightsabers began to echo through this area. Blue, green, and red shadows were shining on the metallic floor, and Sidious spun at the Jedi with his red blade, striking with ferocity. His twisted face was contorted in a chilling smile as he channeled his immense power. Yoda and Obi-Wan worked together, with Obi-Wan's measured defensive stance complementing Yoda's acrobatic offensives. The force of their combined assault was pushing Sidious back, his dark energy swirling around him like a storm. But the Jedi were standing firm, working together, keeping the Dark Lord off balance. Sidious was a great duelist, but his biggest weakness would always be his overconfidence. Through the decades, he slowly destroyed the Jedi with politics, but in a straight-up duel with some of the best in the Order, the Jedi did have the upper hand. Sidious was able to hit Obi-Wan with lightning, but this allowed Yoda to move in, slashing Sidious across the chest, and with a desperate surge, Sidious hurled another barrage of Force lightning towards them, but Yoda caught it with his hand, absorbing the deadly energy, as Obi-Wan moved forward, seeing his own opportunity to disarm Sidious. The Sith Lord stumbled backwards, weakened, defeated, but before the killing blow could be struck, a new smile spread across his face. With a wave of his hand, the ceiling above them began to crack and shatter, revealing the grand Senate chamber above them. Sidious didn't think the Jedi would kill him, with all the senators watching. The senators gasped in horror as they witnessed this fall of Palpatine. The evil Jedi were standing over him. But Yoda knew what must be done, no matter the cost of the Order. He flew forward, stabbing Sidious through the heart, killing him while everyone watched. Yoda and Obi-Wan stood over Sidious, lightsabers still ignited, the senators above frozen in a mix of disbelief and awe, and suddenly, angry yells and boos rained down, and the 2 Jedi ran just before waves of security could arrive to kill them. Meanwhile, Anakin Skywalker was speeding through the Coruscant traffic, landing at the 500 Republica building. He carved a hole in the ground and jumped into the sewer tunnels, sprinting as fast as he could to the hidden lair. Finally, Anakin found it, and he could hear Padme calling out for help. Relief filled Anakin's heart as he told Padme he was here. Padme breathed a sigh of relief, calling for Anakin, asking where he was. Anakin couldn't feel Padme's presence, even though he could hear her voice. A pit of fear and nervousness filled Anakin's heart. He kept trying to find her, and eventually, Anakin turned a corner to see Padme. But it was only a hologram, being recorded from elsewhere, and Padme, all the way across Coruscant, inside of the Limerge building that Sidious used as a lair, realized Anakin was not here. Both of them looked to each other as holograms, and Padme looked to the time bombs that were in here. There were 60 seconds left. Anakin told her to hang on, but Padme begged him not to go. It was too late already. Anakin forced himself to come to a stop, tears filling his eyes, and he looked to Padme. She, too, was crying, but she was able to give a smile and tell Anakin it will be alright. Anakin was sad, angry. Palpatine lied to him about Padme's location. He couldn't get a single word out to Padme. Nothing he could say would ever do justice to what he was feeling in this moment, and Padme held up her hand. Anakin touched the hologram hand, as he did so often during this war, and Padme said his mother would be proud of him. Anakin said he's so sorry, and that he loves her, and Padme said, "I love..." But the hologram suddenly cut out. Anakin fell to his knees, and for a moment, it felt as if he could hear Sidious laughing from beyond death, as Anakin was left in a numb, heartbroken state. When Yoda and Obi-Wan escaped into the Coruscant traffic, they saw the building deep in the industrial sector explode, with Padme and all the evidence of Palpatine being a Sith. They didn't know that Padme was inside, but when they arrived at the lair where Anakin was supposed to be saving Padme, they only found Anakin on his knees. He numbly said that Palpatine lied, and Padme is gone. Obi-Wan would help Anakin up onto their speeder, and Yoda said he will meet them on Ahch-To later on. Obi-Wan nodded, and he took Anakin away, as he was still in a state of complete disbelief and sadness. As the two of them left, Yoda made his way back to the Jedi Temple. There were still many clones here, but he moved through the vents until he reached the security console room. Yoda flipped on the security recordings, and he sped up until he saw Syndrellic and two Padawans battling a Jedi, and all of Yoda's suspicions were confirmed to be true. Anakin was the one dueling the Jedi, but Yoda noticed he did not kill them, though the clones eventually would. He threw the Jedi into the wall, and he moved to the Younglings. Yoda watched the council recordings now, as Anakin entered, seemingly went through every possible emotion, and eventually guided the Younglings to safety. Yoda even closed his eyes, wondering what to do, and the voice of Qui-Gon came to him, telling Yoda to trust in the Force, trust in Anakin. He failed, but so did the Jedi, and there is time to fix the order. 1 year later, on Ahch-To, Grandmaster Yoda and Obi-Wan were watching Anakin Skywalker down on a training area by the water. He was with a group of 10 younglings, training them in lightsaber combat with some training droids. Obi-Wan and Yoda could hear Anakin laughing and teaching the Jedi, and it had become a familiar sight as of late. After everything happened, all 200 of the surviving Jedi came here, and there were now around 500 Jedi here, training, learning, waiting to enter back into the galaxy. The Republic underwent a lot of changes separate from the Jedi. Mas Amedda took over the role of Chancellor and continued the war for another 6 months, before the Republic finally won, with the capture of the Separatist leaders. And in this last 6 months, the Senate Committee of Mon Mothma, Bail Organa, and many others worked to remove Amedda from power and put Bail Organa into place. The cloning program was shut down, and clones were going through mass chip removal, as Bail talked with the Jedi about what happened to the clones. On Ahch-To, Anakin kept to himself for a month after Padme's death. He knew that if he just killed Palpatine instead of Windu, then all of this could have been prevented. But after the month of despair, Anakin began reintegrating himself with the rest of the Jedi, and he confessed his actions to Yoda and Kenobi. Both Jedi knew of all of it by that point, but they told Anakin he came back to the light in time for them to believe in him once more. And so for the last year, Anakin dedicated himself to training the new generations of Jedi. Seeing the younglings in the temple basically saved him from the dark side, and he was repaying them by training them every day, and this task brought a new warmth to Anakin's heart. The loss of Padme and their child would still keep him up at night, and the strings of the dark side always tugged at him. But Anakin used the young Jedi and time alone with Obi-Wan to keep himself balanced and intent on guiding these new generations of the Jedi. In time, the Jedi Order would be allowed back into the galaxy, as Palpatine's corruption and ties with the Sith were finally exposed, and Mas Amedda would be arrested, along with investigations into everyone else in Palpatine's former circle. The galaxy was healing, but there were some scars that would remain forever. But as Anakin trained the younglings by the water, He could feel eyes watching over him, as if Padme, his mother, Qui-Gon, as if all of them were still with him. And Anakin allowed himself to enjoy training these younglings in the ways of the Jedi for years to come. And folks, that is our story for today. This is one I enjoyed quite a bit. It's always tough, when Anakin you have many stories, turn back to the light. I usually have him die or just go into exile or something, but I don't know, I wanted to try one where we just ride it out with him just coming back to the Jedi, and it caps off with him, the younglings kind of saving him, and him just spending his life as a Jedi teacher of the younglings. Kind of like, we see. I think that'd be fun for him to do, fun storyline to take him on. Like Terrace Anube role, sort of, in the Clone Wars. Anyways, let me know what you guys thought of this story. Hope you enjoyed, of course. Thanks for watching. Let me know what you want to see next, and I'll see you in the next video.